We are lucky today to have our senior banking presidents here in three major banks of Pakistan, and also senior banking executive who's going to be speaking about actually developing visionary banking in Pakistan. And we have Mr. Shazad. A lot of people know him from everywhere. He's also been well known as the keynote speaker. Um, Obviously, this is our last function this year as Pathfinder Group and Martin Dow, and we look forward to welcome you again, inshallah, next year in January, hopefully. And there's no further outbreak of a different kind of pandemic by that time. I have nothing much to say more. I leave it to the person who's going to sort of prepare it today. Salman is the Chief Executive Officer of Virtual Remittance Gateway, which is known as VRG, which has got the most innovative thing in the world today, and that is that we're regulated by the State Bank of Pakistan and also the Pakistan Distribution Authority, is that you can open a bank account from many telcos to many banks in less than 2 minutes. And we call that a real game changer, because a poor man, or what we call it now, I've been corrected by my son, who said don't call it a poor man's debit card, call it a deprived person's debit card. And that is exactly what's going to happen. That is, the mobile wallet that he has in his hand is going to act as a debit card, which for the first time, a poor person doesn't have to go and, that he'll be having financial access to the system of the bank. And I can tell you that all three presidents here have already got plans in the works. I wish, I'm not going to take the thunder away from them, because I'm going to tell them, but they've got plans in the works. And we are very proud to be at the middle of it. And I must also say that, my son, of course, has taken over the mantle for me. But the idea of that came from my youngest daughter, Zafar, who came to me and said, Abu, this is nonsense. My driver cannot open a bank account. And this is the thing, and he should be able to do that. And therefore, you should stand up and be counted. Without further this thing, of course, never after that, and disappeared into making bags and then went into making documentaries and then musicals. And she does that every 2 years and does it very well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today's session, that is Visionary Banking in Pakistan, we have some distinguished guests here. But before that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Shahid, Chairman Martin Dow, to this session. So, our distinguished guest, starting from Mr. Dada, who is the keynote speaker today, is the president of Visionary Bank. And I must say, the bank is right now having a real vision of how the digital transformations is occurring in Pakistan. Not only this, the Digital Banks Award has been awarded to this bank multiple times. So congratulations, sir, for all these things. We also have Mr. Zafar, the President of Bank of Punjab, and under his leadership right now the digital transformation which is going on in Bank of Punjab is really remarkable. On the other hand, we have Mr. Kabeer, the President of U Microfinance Bank. I think one of the best bank right now who's having the digital transformation going on in terms of lending, the highest lending portfolio, the highest deposit base in the microfinance. So this is something really remarkable. We also have Mr. Shahid from Bank of Punjab, who is the head of digital banking, and we definitely have a very good insight from him, a very seasoned professional. And we have Mr. Tassawur Hussain, the CEO of i3 Pathfinder, a very seasoned professional having 20 plus years of experience, especially in the field of DFS and mobile financial services. Not only this, but also for the managed service provider. So we also have Mr. Shah Asani, the CEO of iPath, very seasoned and very renowned person in the industry right now, and especially right now very much related to working with the State Bank on RAS. And not only this, he's an architect, a very seasoned architect, and working in all the things which right now is being introduced and developed in PRG is being developed under his leadership. So welcome all. So to start the sessions of today, I would like Mr. Shahzad to please start the presentation. We will start from a presentation and then we can lead to certain question answer sessions. So Mr. Shahzad, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, delighted to be with all of you. By now, I think I can call a lot of you friends because we've been spending so much time together. But honestly, once again, thank you, Pathfinder, Ram Saab, Zarar, and Pathfinder, Ali Akai, for hosting us and taking good care of us throughout this 3-day Pakistan Pavilion sessions that we attended, and it's been a real pleasure. I think we had a brilliant breakfast where we heard some very good insights and also talked about the opportunities that Pakistan has while talking about the challenges that we have, which only we can solve as a nation, as Pakistan. So delighted to be here. The topic that was given to me is visionary banking in Pakistan. First of all, I'll tell you one thing before any expectations are set. If I knew what the visionary Pakistan banking is going to be, I would not be here. While this is a beautiful setup, I would be somewhere else enjoying it. I'll try from what we know, what we have done, personally and professionally, and then in our own journey at UBL, what we have seen, how what's worked, and I'll try to keep it very simple rather than getting into a bunch of buzzwords which will are easy to drop. So that's the first point that I just wanted to make. But I would love to hear from all of you. My colleagues are here also, my banking fraternity. They can also share their own experiences, but we'll just share our UBL experience and what's happening. Secondly, I would also like to understand from your own experiences what you have seen and what you haven't seen. But the good news, I would just say, we have already in Pakistan seen the first revolution of what's happened, and that was when the telcos came into the market, mobile wallets, and I think that really took us by a wave. Today, mobile wallets accounts are just as many as bank accounts, so that tells you the revolution that happened. But the more exciting thing is that we are also seeing a second revolution, and we're on the verge of that, and that's something I wanted to talk to you about that. I would also like to articulate, and while the global challenges are there, we'll talk about some of those and how we can take those headwinds and turn them into tailwinds. I'll try to articulate what the future of banking looks like and what's available in terms of technology and emerging technology, and frankly, some of that is no longer emerging. With examples of some that we have experienced in our own bag. And like I said, I'll try to avoid dropping buzzwords like blockchain and big data and artificial intelligence, but those are all realities, metaverse and everything else. My emphasis will be to show you what's worked, what's working, and what are we working on to take it to the next level. And I think the most important part of that whole journey is going to be collaboration with fintechs. We have 3 fintechs sitting here in the Pathfinder group, but I think the idea is how can we take that whole fintech ecosystem and really do with that. And I'll conclude with some, from my perspective, UBL's perspective, some traits of visionary banking in Pakistan, what I think are must-have from that basis. So this is just a very graphical thing I'm not going to do, but like I said, we are on the verge of a second digital revolution. Lots of things are happening. There's been customer expectations. It's hard to read, but I'll just read some of these things. There's cyber security threat. There's obviously a bunch of fintechs that have come in and big techs that have come in. There's been stagnation and growth in the profitability of large banks. Customer expectations have increased over time. COVID has changed customer behavior, and with all of that happening, you have a digital revolution that's happening, which is acting as an umbrella, whether it's through Internet of Things, innovative credit assessment, blockchain, and I'll give you some examples of that. The other part is conducive environment, and I think that's the most relevant for the people who are not from Pakistan. We have a very visionary regulator. What we have achieved in the last 3 to 5 years has been groundbreaking. Things that we did not do in the last 2 decades, we were able to achieve in the last 5 years, and I think full credit goes to State Bank of Pakistan, working with all its partners and other stakeholders like PTA, FBR, and many others. And I think the whole catalyst for digitization, financial inclusion, and now the digital banking license that's going to be offered. So the good news is we have a very robust and active regulatory environment. And then the numbers do matter in Pakistan's case. We are the fifth largest country. 70% of the population is covered by national database, which is called Nadra, which clearly allows us to do a lot of things from reaching out to the customers. We have 85% tele density, 82 million internet users. And as I was giving an example last time, the growth that we've seen in the telco center industry, we have almost, if you look at what we have done in the last 10 years or 5 years, it's almost the population of Spain and UK. 66 million customers have come in telcos in the last 10 years, which again is mind-boggling. So lots going on, and I think banks that don't have a digital platform will be the, at least that I can confidently say, and this has been echoed by Josh Hopperman and Forrester also, that those will be the net losers. And I think we all are working towards that. Some are in advanced journey, some are in the middle of the pack, some are adopting to it, but that's one message. Last thing I just want to leave while we talked about this 2 days ago, but banks have to play their role in poverty alleviation. Pakistan is a country which has got a lot of people below the poverty line, and we as banks, among other things, we are working for all the stakeholders, but we have to address the poverty alleviation, and I think through technology and digital, we are going to be able to do that. So I'm going to start with a few trends very quickly. Wealth is shifting to Gen Z, millennials and Gen X, who have a high expectation than baby boomers and silent generation. I see a lot of Gen X and millennials here, and I also see a lot of silent generation and baby boomers. And I think what the message from this page I want to just leave, that the younger customers that we are coming, they're a lot more impatient. If they do not get the service, if they do not get what they think is good, they will quickly switch. And this is again data that has been collected by BCG. 33% are likelihood in the age of 18 to 34 that they will change their bank account. So no longer the fact that you are UBL, you've been there for 60 years, that you become complacent. They will immediately change. So we have to be on our feet as banks. And if we don't, there are other competitors that have come in, wallets, other ways of remitting, for example, money. It's not no longer just through your bank accounts. Plus, younger customers feel much more comfortable depositing their money in digital banks. This was again a myth that, oh, if I leave my money in a digital bank, cyber security, what will happen to my data? But again, people in the age 18 to 24 are more likely to put their money, 40% indeed, whereas only 20% above the age of 55. So I think this is again a phenomenon that's happening. The second global trend, so this is the first global trend, that the baby boomers are coming in, are being moved away, and Gen Z and millennials are coming, who require a lot more customer care, to say the least. Next one is this trend, and I think COVID, we all have been impacted by that, but one thing that COVID has done, it's really taken the digital banking adoption to a different level. It's effectively in everything, it's been a 2x experience, whether it's digital active banking customers, they have increased by 2x, core banking products, e-commerce has gone up by 3 times. So clearly, I think what that's done, it's really taken it to the next level. The third thing I think worth noting here is still, if you look at the digital transaction in emerging markets, I think we're still lagging behind, and that's a real big opportunity for us banks. If you look at it in the branch transactions have grown at almost 5x in the developed markets, developed Asia, whereas in emerging Asia it's only 1.6 times. What does that mean? What's the opportunity? That there's a lot of things and room to cover for us, and therefore some of the stuff that you're going to hear from different people today is again reconfirming the fact that there's a lot more opportunity. People are going to move away from branches into the digital network, and again this has been justified and supported by the data. And as I always say, data does not lie. You may have your own preferences, you may have your own likes and dislikes, but this is what it is. And some of the other issues, the fourth trend is basically banks are hindered with the legacy system. So all big banks, large banks, old banks, they all have these issues, some more, some less. UBL has its own set of challenges. Bank of Punjab may have different, and others may have other things. But operational costs, operational risk, customer experience, longer time to market, data practices, and high cost of KYC, to name a few. So these are things that are hindering us. So these are 3 or 4 big trends that, and the last trend that I just wanted to talk about is the most important thing that we have to do is know our customers. Next please. And it's a very manual and expensive process that we have. And I think uske andar what you see, it's very time consuming and repetitive for financial institutions, leading up to poor customer service, and also from a regulator point of view, a big risk area. And how that is going to change with some of the things I'm going to talk about shortly, I think it's important. But additionally, I think we are being challenged by a very demanding expectations from the stakeholders. So these are 5 big picture trends that are happening. Now let's put something in context to Pakistan. We are in the Pakistan pavilion, so I should talk about that. So and these trends are globally. This is nothing. Next. Pakistan, I think just a couple of thoughts I wanted to leave you. One, and you heard this at the breakfast also, you've heard it again and again, we have a very young population, 70% of our population is under the age of 35, so it's millennials and younger, and that's the one that I'm telling you is a lot more receptive, adoptive, and willing to do a lot more things differently than we have been doing in the past. And if we do not change and adapt to their needs, we are going to become dinosaurs. So Pakistan, one, as a result of the young population, it's a very fussy population. And I think we need to understand that. We have done a lot of data analytics on this population will switch immediately if they do not get the level of service that they want. For example, in our call center, if your call does not get answered in 3 minutes, and 3 minutes is a long time. So we've brought it down to 1 minute. You have lost your customer. So we are talking now minutes and seconds rather than, days and weeks. And I think this is important for us to understand how we are doing that. And again, as I touched upon, we have a very large population, which is quite, while we have 162 million NADRA eligible customers, only 20% of that population has bank accounts. If you add the wallet, that's another 28%. So we have like 40-45% wallet in bank account compared to 85% tele density. There may be duplicate subscribers and all that, and it's growing very fast. As I mentioned, last year it grew by 10 million, size of the population. 50 million was added in the last 5 years in terms of size, and a very active user. So it's all the data is very, very supportive for all the things that are going to happen. And again, it supports a lot of things that are going to happen in the revolution that we are going through. I think this is the one page that I just wanted to talk about, and it shows that Pakistan has a very low financial inclusion, both from a mobile consumption and from a financial services point. And this, again, it's a busy page, but it shows that Pakistan is in the bottom quartile, whereas countries like China, Malaysia, Thailand, and I'm only comparing it to Asia, I'm not even going down into the World Bank Financial Inclusion Index. So we are clearly at the bottom of this, and I think our opportunity should be how do we move up to the top quartile. And for that to happen, we are lagging behind. If you look at instant messaging in developed Asia, it's 41%, we're only at 19%. If you look at networking and social networking, while we say we do a lot of TikToks and we do a lot of social messaging, we're still 70% Asia, we are 56%. But the most interesting thing to note is in financial services on mobile phone, and to my friend here, Zafar, who is the largest manufacturer of mobile phones in Pakistan, 56% of the transactions are happening on mobile phone compared to only 30%. So already we've adopted to that whole change that's happening in the industry. And I think with that, what we need to do is how do we continue to keep pace with all the changing needs and become more and more inclusive and try to move our penetration to a higher level. Next, what I just wanted to again, so this is Pakistan in context. Again, I mentioned to you earlier, Pakistan has had a number of visionary steps that they have taken. And again, I here would like to give credit to State Bank of Pakistan along with the other stakeholders, FPR, PTA, NADRA, and many more. But I think this is just a laundry list of things that have happened from digital banking regulations, RAS, which Ikram Saab talked about, AMA, which he also touched upon, which is obviously something that's going very well, and Salman can talk a lot more about it. Asan digital account. These are all things that are happening already. We have already developed this RDA, which I'll touch upon, Roshan digital account, digital onboarding, micro gateway. All of these things are things that have happened or already in place. So I'm not talking about visionary, this is already there. And then on the financing side, we have come up with a number of initiatives, whether it's to the expat community through Roshan Apna Card or Apna Card, through electronic warehousing, to catering to the poor people through Mera Pakistan, Mera Ghar, a subsidized housing mortgage scheme, Kamyab Jawan, and many more things on the renewable energy. So from a regulator point of view, I think we've been supported on that. And what, with this happening, with those global trends, next slide. I just want to also leave you with this thought that the future of digital, today a typical bank does 50 to 80 logins. In the future, again, research is telling us it's going to do around 300 to 350 logins. Mobile payments are going to be around 600, 500 to 600 compared to 50. So this change is happening. Now, if you don't partake in this, into that visionary banking, you're going to be left behind, because this is what your customers will be wanting. They'll be doing a lot less branch visits and a lot more using your mobiles. So, ladies and gentlemen, what am I saying? Digital banks have been powered, if you look at it, by a lot of existing and emerging technologies, and a lot of them are no longer emerging, whether it's iCloud, financial partnership, big data, artificial intelligence, and I told you I'm not going to drop these words, but these are all things that are already in place. And I think what's going to do is ubiquitous automation within the E2E ecosystem. You're going to have an invisible automation that will happen, which will connect A to Z. And I think that's the nirvana stage that we are looking at. We at UBL have been able to do that in certain sectors. And what it will do is it will be totally invisible and you won't even feel it. How we are going to connect all the dots, but again, using our partners like fintechs, using artificial intelligence, using Internet of Things to really do it. And I think that is going to be the end game that we are trying to achieve at. And on this one, I would just say, open banking, we have just launched something in a digital village, which we're doing with a big partner. When we talked about operational resilience, we have done satellite crop yields and weather predictions there, virtual metaverse. We have been working on that with some of our partners there, with the university and fintech. We've been collaborating with a number of players, including the Pathfinder group. So I think this is all happening. But for this to happen, one of the prerequisites, for this to happen, I think what we also need to understand why. One of the prerequisites for that will be agile target operating model. It's a big mouthful. Think of it, what it's called ATOM. It's basically the way we do things, we do it with agility. Wo din chale gaye, the days are gone when it takes weeks and months to do something. It has to happen fast. If it doesn't happen fast, if it doesn't happen on a timely basis, this young population that you are trying to cater will be left, will switch over. And what we have seen, the best in class, the best performing agile banks are doing almost 500 to 1,000 releases, whereas an average bank in the region does only 25 to 30. Productivity wise, if you look at it, time to market, it takes around 8 to 26 weeks on things to happen, whereas for an agile bank, it takes from 2 to 4 weeks. So all of this, why are we doing it? It's for a better customer journey, better customer experience, and I think that's what's the need of the hour, because our customers are demanding that. Ratings reduction in operational cost has come down by 20% if you do that. We have done it at UBL and it's really worked well. Delivery time has improved by 25% and attrition has gone down by 5%. So we're not doing it because it's nice to have or it's something good or I can come here and talk to you about, but it's really going to help the bottom line and it will again allow us to play a pivotal role in this digital journey, along with also our number one purpose also to how do we eliminate poverty in a country like Pakistan and play our role. So this is some data. I think this is our journey in terms of what we have been doing. So we started a bit ahead of our competitors, and we are very fortunate. We had some foresight. In hindsight, it's worked out. We came up with the first agile island before anybody was talking about agility. in 2016. We developed our own delivery lab, agile delivery lab in 1920. We have, in which I welcome any one of you come up with any use case, any issue you have, and we can help you develop a solution based on a very detailed design thinking around it. We have a digital factory which has been very successful, and now we are really making it not just limited to IT and digital, it's bank-wide enterprise integration of digital technology and business, and we are almost there. What we want to do is become a totally agile organization. We don't want to have large teams doing things, we want to have nimbleness, we want to have operational models that work with subject matter experts across different departments, and they can work with fully empowered authority, and they can deliver. A company, a bank that we look up to today, if you ask me, what's the company, and this will change, is DBS in Singapore. They have done this bank-wide integration, and you can see their results, you can see what they have been able to achieve in terms of growth, in terms of their market capitalization, in terms of investor interest in that company, and I think that's something we are aspiring to, at least one example that I would think of in terms of what they have become in terms of their open banking platform. And it's been a very powerful one. But for us, it's been again a fantastic journey so far. We were able to come up with a digital native proposition. Product and features are channel agnostic, so we really don't care which channel they're being used at. Fintech integration and incubation is happening. And again, we're doing seamless integration with our partners rather than trying to create for each one a digital platform. Next. So design thinking, it really becomes the cornerstone of what we do, and I touched upon it. I'm not going to read all of these things, but these are the top 10 things that we look at when we are looking at anything on onboarding. A good example of this is Roshan Digital Account, which the State Bank of Pakistan, in collaboration with a handful of banks, came up with that product. Today, that product has been a resounding success. In less than 2 years, they've been able to raise 4.2 billion rupees dollars, and it's been very successful in terms of the number of accounts, over 400,000 accounts. So I think that journey was not just done. We could have done it very quickly, but a lot of time went in with all the stakeholders. And what we did a lot of research, we defined what our purpose was, we empathized on what the customer wants. Empathy is a very important characteristics that we as bankers need to have. We cannot no longer be, I'm UBL or I'm XYZ and I need to do that. If you need empathy, you need to brainstorm, you need to do prototypes, you need to develop, test and iterate. Because these are things that will really provide that. And again, design thinking has increased revenue and return to shareholders twice the rate of any industry peer. This is, I'm not saying it, this is again McKinsey study that has been done which confirms that. So again, my one other takeaway to all of you, when you're thinking of doing something, even in your own organizations, apply the design thinking and agile way of doing things. I'm very proud that with that, starting early, adopting agile thinking and design thinking. Next is, I mean, numbers don't lie, this as they say. We are the most profitable bank in Pakistan. We have we have the #1 mobile app. We have got amazing feedback. We're leading the way on the Russian digital account. We are playing a very important role in the remittance business. A question that was asked to me early on. $6 billion of dollars come through our counters. We have been onboarding Asan digital account. We did it the fastest in a competition recently. State Bank had won numerous awards of Best Digital Bank. And again, the growth in registration, transactions, they all have been 50% plus for us. But again, I don't take this as getting complacent. I know competition is all over me. They are really getting strong. And I think any banker who stands here and says, I know it all, or I know everything about it, will be really dumbfounded when the way things are moving. And I think this is a testament of a lot of teamwork from my UBL colleagues. Obviously, none of them are here right now, but I hope they're listening and hearing me. Very proud of them because they really work day and night along with all the stakeholders, whether it's the fintechs, whether it's the technology companies, whether it's even our banking colleagues, whether it's the regulator, and I think this is no coincidence that with some real dedication and hard work and the support of the board and my management team, we were able to achieve that. But good design is a good business, and I think that's something that we take it very seriously, even though it's been quoted by Tom Watson at IBM. Last few slides. Again, I just wanted to give you examples. How does it matter? Before, hum karte the heavy cost of on KYC. KYC stands for Know Your Customers. We went through a very old and archaic model of onboarding a customer, going through a series of. But we've just completed a 2-year program of implementation, state-of-the-art financial crime and compliance transformation program with eBuy, and it's been ranked and recognized both locally and internationally, and we're very proud of it. So today we can, through blockchain, and there's a blockchain center downstairs in town. I encourage all of you to go there. But what we have been able to do through using blockchain technology, we are able to do a bulk customer onboarding, which is again provides us to reduces our chances of error, better controls, lower cost, and again it gives a lot more reliability and validation. So this is again working, and it's something that we are doing. Similarly, we have done a lot of stuff. I told you I'm not going to just drop the words, but I'll tell you why it's working. AI and big data. Historically, I'll give you an example. When you went and go for a loan or something, it was what's your age, what's your gender, what's your education, where do you work, what is happening in your country, in your city, in your industry. I think that's all still relevant. Know your customers and get the 5 C's and everything else. But I think there's a lot more data available today on all of us. And how do we utilize that data is going to be extremely important. And again, whether it's their consumption behavior, what they are buying, who they are buying from, when are they buying, what are they spending most of their time on social capital, which communities do they belong to, are they part of an aviation club, are they part of a motor club, are they part of the Harley Davidson club, and then we can cater and be very focused on what we want to offer them, because otherwise we are just barking up the tree, spending a lot of money. If I know this person hates flying and has no interest in traveling, sending them all these offers about the great travel deals that we have would be a real colossal waste of our resources. But having said that, if we know that they like to travel, they like to come to Davos, every day they come and they're part of the Seidel family that spends a lot of money in Davos. I think I know exactly what to offer next time that this family is coming in February. So get ready, stay tuned, that the Seidel family will be hearing from UBL. But honestly, I think that's what's happening. Then we've also been doing a lot of macroeconomic testing, stress testing, and what it all means is we are able to do better credit scoring and be able to offer a much better solution and it reduces our cost of risk, but at the same time brings in people into the net which were not at all available. The fact that you have a mobile phone and the fact that you are doing top-ups and the fact that you're paying your bills on time tells me a lot about your credit behavior, which before I did not have. A lot of people don't have a home, they don't have an electricity bill, but they do have a mobile phone. How often are you topping it up? Are you really topping it up when you're on the verge of expiring, on the verge of your minutes going away? Tells me a bit about how well-to-do you are, what kind of financial flexibility you have. And all of this ultimately helps me also on my earlier mission that I said, poverty elevation, because I'm able to get to them. Another example that I would give, and Shahzad is going to talk about this, but with i3 Pathfinder, I think we've done some very good use cases on agri-tech partnerships. And what we have been able to do is using predictive statistics and data insights on Internet of Things, we're able to really do the imagery of what's happening, sense with the farmers, and on the basis of that, we're able to give better, attractive pricing to the farmers for their financing needs and for fertilizers and other things. Again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to give you more examples, but again, it's worked very well and we continue to do that. This is a page that I think it's worth being proud of for Pakistan. We have a very vibrant fintech landscape, though I think it's small, 350 million last year, but I think it's an industry that could reach 50 billion by 2030. And I think for that to happen, we need to really use the best expertise, whether it's in digital payments, digital lending, financial information, health tech, logitech, education tech, because what it tells us is there are people who have learned this art a lot better, they know what they're doing, and again, what we need to do as large banks, collaborate with them and work together. And if you really look at Davos's theme, it's all about collaboration. This world is becoming a smaller and smaller, it's a smaller village, and I think people who are going to collaborate with the best in class, I think will be the net winners, and I think we at UBL are working very closely with a number of them. And again, here I would like to again call out Pathfinder of what we are doing with them and a number of their subsidiaries that they have, whether it's VRG, whether it's iPath or any others that are out there. And I think what that is again telling us that startups have been doing very well. There's been a phenomenal rise. They've raised in only first quarter $200 million, and I think this is the name of the few that are building platforms. We have partnered with a number of them. Transwise is for remittance, and this is again Abhi for digital lending and many more. I'm not going to do it, but again, our aim is to continue to invest in fintech. And continue to grow our franchise and again come close earlier to market. This is my second last slide. I know I'm standing between lunch and myself, but this is a very busy slide, but what it's telling you is this invisible ecosystem that I'm talking about. I won't give you the name of the company, but we work with a sugar mill that we were able to work right from the farmer all the way up to the consumer and able to really come in the middle of it and provide a bunch of services using API, using artificial intelligence, using satellite monitoring, using Internet of Things for paperless sourcing, using AI-driven order management, real-time, m-commerce, and what it did effectively was we were able to connect all the dots in a very seamless manner. Net kya hua? What was the result of that? The farmer was happy because he or she was able to get financing and very good market intelligence of what's going on from a weather and from a weather perspective. At the same time, we were able to ensure that the sugar mill that was buying the crop from them got sustainable product, i.e. sugarcane, on time, so they could be able to then provide that to their customers, whether it's Coca-Cola or Pepsi or biscuit factories and so forth. So I think this whole journey was being put together, and we like to replicate this for every industry, for every client, where we are going to be able to really sit down with them, do a very detailed design thinking, and we are going to try to provide this. And with this, we are able to go beyond our comfort zone. Our comfort zone probably would have just been to service the sugar mill, but today we can go right to the farmer and provide them with support at the same time to the consumer who's buying it. We're also doing a bunch of stuff for them from a tax computation point of view, digital lending, personal financing. So it's just been an amazing win-win for the customer. It's solidified our position with them, and we hope to do that with many more, inshallah, in the years to come. Last slide, I promise you this is the last slide. Some of the bank of the future. Again, I think, look, I could have dropped a lot of words here and a lot of acronyms, but I think it's going to be very simple. The bank of the future will no doubt be digital. I think anybody, like I said at the opening, anybody thinks it's going to be otherwise is seriously mistaken. So first of all, the bank of the future is going to be digital. And the second point that I want to make is it has to be simple. Keep it simple, stupid, the KISS mentality. Reduce the burden on the customers. Provide low touch, yet highly delightful customer experience. That customer journey, customer experience has to be at the forefront of what we do. Third, it has to be instant. Highly efficient interface that responds to customer needs in very timely basis, manner, proactively maximizes the customer outcomes using AI. And I think that's again something that's no longer emerging, it's very much there. And then if you look at it from it has to be modular. If you look at it from that point of view, it has to be done. It's like IKEA. When you go to IKEA, you're building the blocks, right? You cannot say sab cheez main karunga. So again, it has to be done in a modular manner, in an architecture that works, and you're taking the best-in-class services of others and managing it while managing your own relationship. It has to be relevant. I think this is another important point. You have to deliver customer experiences to every customer using sophisticated application of data and technology. One size doesn't fit all. You have to be relevant to them, otherwise you will be outnumbered. Transparent and social responsibly. Again, this is a big theme even at Davos, but again, we all have to play our role in this thing. We cannot say, ये नहीं कर रहा था, if they are not doing it, I won't do it, but I think we all have to play our role. We touched upon this earlier this morning in breakfast also, but direct access and support to innovative application allowing full visibility in their financial activity and related advisory. I think that's important in a country where our tax to GDP is low. I think we need to address that point because that's going to help us bridge our fiscal gap. ESG will be the fabric of the bank of the future. We have to work on that. Gender diversity at bank side, 20% should be at least 45% to 50% in line with our population and global standards. We have to work on carbon emissions and again do things that are going to be both important to the country and to the world, and I think we can really play a very important role in helping some of the global companies get to their carbon zero targets in a timely basis. And we need to be highly compliant with shared databases and governance and control. The data, as I said, as I would say, while we have other people's money in the form of deposit, data is the oil of the 21st century, and the data that we have, which banks get because customers trust us, we really need to protect it and ensure nothing happens to it. Hence, we need to have very robust cyber security. Dr. Aftab is here and many other are here who can talk a lot more about it. And lastly, I would say we need to integrate banking activities seamlessly into the life cycles of, and that's the invisible part that I talk. If you ask me one word that describes the bank of the future will be invisible. But it has to be invisible. We cannot be in the middle of anything, but we will be in the middle of everything, but we will be invisible. And that's, if we do that right, I think that's will really make us very successful. And I think banks that are trying to say, I'll do it all myself, or I know it all, I think will again be the net losers. And the ones that are really able to collaborate, work, and focus on these 7 qualities, I think will be the ones that will be very successful. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Salman, thanks for having me and happy to answer any questions if anybody has. Thank you.
I would like now request Mr. Zafar Masud to present a detailed presentation and how the digital transformation journey is going on in Bank of Punjab and how they are actually moving towards the digital bank in Pakistan.
I, on Monday in my presentation, acknowledge the efforts that Ikram Saab and his family and the Pathfinder team and Martin Dow team has made in making Pakistan Pavilion at Davos. But really, the appreciation, Sagal Saab has gone to the next level today. When I strolled on the high street this afternoon, and I saw that, the representation of other countries have been many-fold higher than us. And I really wanted to salute you, to Martin Dow Group, for keeping the flag of Pakistan high. I think it's very motivating, and I think we should. It's about time an institution like ourselves must recognize that we all have to play our due role in events like this to portray Pakistan what it truly is, rather than the, as I call it, the CNN viewed Pakistan across the globe. We have to really represent what we mean for the world, what's the opportunity out there, and um, how and what is stored for the foreign investors there in this country. The topic of today was a pretty interesting one, visionary banking. Shazad has done a brilliant job as always in terms of covering it in a great detail, particularly on the digital side. I have tried to make it more broad-based, and I would like to cover, the other pillars also as far as the visionary banking is concerned. So I'm very pleased to be here to discuss highly exciting field of visionary banking. The challenge for banks in this highly dynamic and tech-driven market is to continue to innovate. There's no other option but innovation. Connect their organizational values with the values of their customers, driving sustainable finance, spreading financial literacy, alliances, engaging with microfinance institutions, with fintech players, and leveraging digital information and data. We at Bank of Punjab have followed a truly visionary approach to technology, ensuring strong fundamentals, keen awareness of the market, solid architecture and team dynamics, robust governance and compliance, and an overarching purpose and intent. So focusing on digital transformation, there are four things, which is driving innovation, unlocking economic competitiveness, and enhancing social economic inclusion in a country which is fifth most populous country in the world, and a high population of available labor force, reasonably high level of literacy rate. Shahzad has already covered that in detail. I'm going to talk about it in a cursory fashion because there are other things which are stored for you, and I'm sure that will, keep your attention to the screen rather than to the phone. When we talk about the climate of Pakistan, it's varied to its topography. There are four seasons. The hot and dry spell starts from March to May. The rainy summer season that starts from June to September. The monsoon season between October and November. And then dry, cool winter between December and February. I'm very proud to share with you that in South Asia, we have been the #1 reformer in terms of ease of doing business. An improvement has been 28 points in merely 1 year alone. The bulk of the foreign direct investment has been in the power sector, oil and gas sector, and the financial business sector. However, that trend is substantially changing now, and new attraction is being seen in the technology space as well as the tourism sector in Pakistan. The main investors are China, USA, UK, Netherlands, and Hong Kong. Now, at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share a small video with you depicting Pakistan as an investment opportunity. This video I am very emotional about, and Faisal will vouch for it. I also like to acknowledge, by the way, the great work done by our media team here. Faisal and his team, Masud, Ali. Without them, we have not been able to project the real face of Pakistan. So thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Ali. So let me just share that video with you, and then we'll continue with our discussion.
Welcome to a place where every day is a new dawn, where history is lived and present feels like the future. The land which has kept in its chest the secrets of the past. The land of contrasts and bewitching colors. The land of electrifying pandragos and lip-smacking cuisines. A place where people not only live, but thrive. Where every story is Instagrammable and every moment a magic. A place which gives the world a reason to chat. Where sweet aroma of freshness captivates you. And sour is just another flavor. Where foundation of every fashion is laid. Where gold is not just yellow, and pink is the color of salt, and water, emerald green. The land which heals the world with unparalleled expertise and celestial craftsmanship. The land where love is carved out with passion, and every flower narrates a sonnet. Where every step leads to success. Where endless opportunities seek those with a futuristic eye. Welcome to Punjab. Welcome to Pakistan.
So with that, I would like to move on to talk about the banking infrastructure and payment infrastructure in Pakistan. We have a pretty robust banking and payment infrastructure in place. The mobile wallet penetration in Pakistan has been a real success story. And in terms of digital financial services, Pakistan still has a huge opportunity owing to its larger bankable population, which is outside the banking arena right now. And this could only be achieved through adoption of digital financial products, which has been low so far. Another success story of Pakistan has been, and it's a real big success saga when it comes to handling of COVID. We've done exceptionally well, and there are 4 or 5 big, larger initiatives that we took, which resulted in a response which really helped the economy to sustain and grow. This year we expect it to grow at 6%. It's not a small feat. It's a huge number by any standards. And that's all happened because the government took the responsibility of it. There was a National Command and Control Center which was set up to ensure agility and effective reforms to mitigate the impact of pandemic. And they're introducing massive, by the way, and I'm massive, it means really massive. Pakistan is a big country, as we saw, the 5th largest populous country in the world, of massive vaccination campaign, including rolling out the first of its kind drive-in vaccination centers, perhaps in the entire region, implementing very smartly the lockdowns, and then of course, rolling out economic stimulus package, which helped the trickle-down effect on the economy. But last but not the least, and my favorite perhaps, is the largest emergency cash transfer, which is, so we approached to arrest the situation, we approached the pandemic mitigants both from a trickle-down effect, as we saw in the case of economic stimulus package, and then, a bottom-up approach to largest emergency cash transfer, again, perhaps in the world. So discovery of, the digital banking, the visionary banking in Pakistan. There are obviously conventional ways of assessing visionary banking. However, there are new and emerging ways of measuring success. We have combined both the industry direction along with our own set of values. Industry directions on profitability, customer growth, business valuation, fundraising, but our own values as Bank of Punjab, where empathy, disruption, efficiency, and customer experience stood out as the real measuring factors. And we'll just later on see some of the testimonials in that regard as well. In accordance with our positioning, conceptualizing what visionary banking entails, we centered it around 5 core pillars. First of all is obviously the customer and community. So when we were preparing for this presentation here, we thought that it's very important to make sure that customer and community are lumped together. And that remains the first and the foremost thing as far as our core is concerned. We're designing customer products and services which are exclusive. For example, Khidmat card, as we talked about earlier, Punjab Mazdoor card or labor card, or e-stamping. These are the few examples. But there are segments of demographic pyramid, marginalized and underserved segments to Islamic financing to agriculture, micro and small medium enterprises. Based on robust distribution channels and outreach, remote accessible DG BOP, our digital banking offering, along with internet and mobile banking, and now WhatsApp as well. The second pillar is on strategy and branding. This has always been my point of view that in banking there are 2 or 3 things which matter. I was talking to Kabeer yesterday about it only, and I think strategy fits in. It is at the center of the plate around which the entire banking business revolves around. So strategy and then branding with it is something. Strategy without branding it fails substantially. And there are 3 main phases of that, conventional ones: fix, grow, and transform. They're underpinned with cohesive brand identity, entailing customer base and profit, aggressive product services, while building capacity and capturing low-hanging fruit. This is on the growth side. And then transforming the industry disruption. Several industry firsts were done by the Bank of Punjab, including area yield insurance, electronic warehouse receipt, Asan clean financing, and big data analytics. To tie it all together, our reimagined brand identity was also very important. Participating in non-conventional areas like literature festivals, and I know Martin Dow is very keen on such initiatives. So we are also making our effort in that arena and offering first of its kind, for example, sports affinity card. Number 3, and very close to our heart, being an organization which is people and community centric, Bank of Punjab, the third pillar is people and culture. Offering visionary industry first, for example, batch hiring of women and persons with disabilities. Sensitizing trainings for our staff to accommodate these people within the organization as well. It's one thing to get them in, it's the other to make sure that there is proper acceptance for them and promotion for them as well. Our workspace to ensure handicap accessibility, we modified them. Special fast track promotions for members belonging to underrepresented and marginalized groups. And special weightages were given for diversity and inclusion initiatives in the annual performance reviews. On the policy front, HR policy front, we are probably the only bank which has introduced affirmative action policy, a deterrent from retaliation policy, and pre-onboarding psychological evaluation screening, again something which is a rarity in the sector. One thing that we are doing, which nobody else are doing, and we think is very, very important, is that we are on a continuous basis going through the psychological evaluation of our branch managers and operation managers in the remote areas. The problem is that they're too far away, they're too empowered, and we need to make sure that they are psychologically settled, they are aware of their shortcomings, and then work with them to make sure that their mental strength is not compromised anywhere. In the COVID response, our case was unique. We were the only bank, and perhaps the only organization. In fact, I have to retract this statement because Zarar this morning said the same thing about Pathfinder. We gave special bonuses to our staff during COVID because they were in the front line and they were in the branches, so they deserved that extra money. In fact, a lot of people attribute my planes crash survivor with that initiative as well. I don't know how far that's true, but we did it as an organization. We believe this is the right thing to do, and we're very proud of the fact that we did it. The last pillar is, of course, the governance and compliance. Second last is the governance and compliance. Again, who will understand this better than Dr. Aftab? I can't see him around, but Aftab Saab, I've been had discussion with him, and the governance and compliance piece is very, very critical. Which remains a key component of our visionary strategy. Realigned and restructured robustness, dynamism, and prudence. We have restructured our governance system by introducing efficiency and broad-based decision making within the organization. We have improved our financial metrics and performance as a result. Operations and technology goes without saying. There's a whole presentation that I did on Monday. I'm not going to repeat all of that. But the key ones there are, of course, the foundation for innovation. The key areas of focus are building a future-ready bank, consolidation and integration, and fastest implementation of digital banking infrastructure. We have been, whoever been aware about Bank of Punjab, we have been a pretty archaic bank 3 years ago. And we got the inspiration from banks like UBL and all, and trying to leapfrog and catch up on that deficit. And I'm really proud of my team. Shazad is here, Asif is there, and the team back home as well, that we have been able to achieve, in some of the cases, fastest implementation on the digital side, including the recent Affinity program, Temenos Infinity implementation, which is the fastest in the region. We're also looking forward to and working very closely with the Pathfinder group in terms of digitizing the future banking and payment landscape, with potential of collaborating more into not just remittances but payments and eventually digital banking as well. And the idea is to something which is very close to my heart, Ikram Sahab, is related to the farmers and suppliers. The offering that you have integrated in that system, I think that's a real game changer. And then, we, as part of our initiative of overall promoting financial inclusion, we have digital financial inclusion, which is really a case study from collaborating with Punjab Social Protection Authority, which is first of its kind digital financial inclusion solution for disbursement of cash grants to members of the vulnerable population groups. Inclusion of over 1 million individuals was achieved. And then, inclusion of blue collar wage labor segment, BOP again stands without parallel. In collaboration with Punjab Employees Social Security Institute, we have been able to revolutionize and offer Punjab Mazdoor Card, Punjab Labour Card, which is another visionary initiative. We have been able to include 1.2 million members through this initiative alone. Our tagline is Har Fark Ka Khayal, which means care for all. Something very close to our hearts. My entire team, I'm just talking about my entire team. And we really follow that in letter and spirit. It has portfolios, across all products, prioritizing equity, empathy, and tolerance. I would like to repeat these three words because Pakistan does not seem to be connecting with this somehow, which is very unfortunate. Equity across all genders, across all sections, empathy, and more so tolerance. You saw Gurdwara there as well, by the way, in the presentation. And then the entire spectrum of our valued clientele, making sure that we are including everybody and anybody who's out there and could potentially be part of the banking system. Now, some of the impact stories are here, and I believe that the visual impact of those stories and they sharing their experiences with you would give you a better idea of what the impact has been of our initiatives on the visionary banking side than me just telling you about them. So here we go.
मैं इलाज भी करा दी पई तो मैं खर्चा पानी भी आपका पूरा करनी पई
हम ख्वाजा सरा एक मजलूम तबका जिसे मुआशरे में बिल्कुल भी एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया जाता मुसावात प्रोग्राम के तहत हम लोग उसके लिए मादी और समाजी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ का बंदोबस्त किया है।
हमने बैंक ऑफ पंजाब के साथ रोशन अपनी कार के लिए मैंने उसको कहा और उसने पाकिस्तान में अपने अकाउंट खुलवा लिया और उसके लिए हमने रोशन अपनी कार बुक करवा ली।
So you saw the testimonials, how the financial inclusion initiative of ours have actually impacted people directly. The efficacy of measure known by the impact it creates, as we've just seen, but there are a couple of other things as well that I would like to share with you. One is on the clean lending front, where members of marginalized and underprivileged, we have been able to create employment of over 9,000 people in the last couple of years. We've been able to provide 8,000 plus financing to 8,000 borrowers. 8 billion rupees to 8,000 borrowers. We've been able to disburse 1 billion rupees to 1,100 women. We've been able to offer 3,300 plus agri SMEs, and we supported them. And our outreach has been on this clean lending front, has been in 64 districts of the country, which is very those particularly those sectors, districts which have not been part of the banking ecosystem in the past. On economy housing finance, we have been leading with wide margins. We have passed the 10 billion mark. We have been able to, by the way, and this is, I need your attention on, please, ladies and gentlemen, especially the ladies in the room. They are the ones who are talking more, by the way. 17% of the borrowers on the low income housing are women borrowers. And at this point in time, while we are here, there is a project taking place, it's being celebrated by the Prince of Wales in London, whereby we have supported Heritage Foundation. I don't know how many of you are aware of the Heritage Foundation in Karachi, whereby we are creating a whole community of zero carbon housing, which the women are creating themselves. And we have supported that in collaboration with Akhuat, which is an Islamic microfinance entity, and Heritage Foundation. whereby they will return that money to us, and that will help in developing the whole ecosystem in that community. 27% financing was done in the informal sector through scorecards, 75% to the salaried class, 16% of the portfolio, ladies and gentlemen, this is also very important statistic, Islamic financing. I think Salman was talking about it yesterday. That Islamic financing is something that we have not talked about, especially in the context of financial inclusion, and I think this is very important to highlight here. And then this whole initiative was spread across 28 districts of the country. Last, ladies and gentlemen, but not the least and the most important one as well, is related to our trajectory for the future, particularly in the space of technology. We have a very progressive and revolutionary roadmap. One of the first when exploring a presence in a metaverse space. Give us a look and feel of ultimate vision towards setting up a BOP Sky branch. About the impact? Okay, sorry. So let's first look at the impact of the two initiatives that I talked about, and then after that we'll have another, well, it's a repetition though, but we have another video for you.
जानवर पालने आते हैं, लेकिन जानवरों के लिए मेरे पास पैसे नहीं थे और मैंने बैंक ऑफ पंजाब में दरखास्त दी कर्जे के लिए, जो मेरी मंजूर हो गई। मुझे बैंक ऑफ पंजाब से कर्जा मिला, मेरा कारोबार बड़ा है और इंशाल्लाह हमारा भविष्य तरक्की करेगा। कोरोना में मेरी दुकानें बंद थी 2-3 महीने, उसकी वजह से मेरे बहुत मुश्किलों की, जब ये कोरोना के बाद लोन मिला तो बहुत आसानी हो गई और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कारोबार मेरा बढ़ गया। कि जिनकी वजह से मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली, मैं अपने पैरों पे खड़ी हूँ, मैं अपने ख़ानदान के लिए खुद अर्न कर रही हूँ और किसी काबिल हूँ अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह।
This morning only, we went to a couple of, the pavilions on the high street. And we've been able to explore two things. One, the NFT. How can, my own situation is very peculiar. So perhaps how can that build into some kind of NFT? But more so, we've also explored the possibility as a starting point, getting the inspiration from the recent, very successful concert of Justin Bieber, where, we were thinking of getting the space at the metaverse and rolling out a Qawwali event. So we are just looking at it, learning from the best. Let's see how far we'll go with this. At the end, ladies and gentlemen, I must like to highlight this. I think Zara talked about it this morning, about the art and culture and things. So this is a great project that we have restored. And for me, the visionary banking cannot be just taken away from the social and the cultural elements. So ladies and gentlemen, last year we have been involved in restoring 175-year-old paintings. These are 11 murals, which are there in Lahore at Lahore Fort from Raja Ranjit Singh's court. It doesn't just end here. Let me just elaborate on this. So it was done by a big and very famous Hungarian artist called August Schaft. August Schaft did those paintings 175 years ago. Those paintings were getting, they were getting a serious wear and tear, and we restored them. And then we depicted the tolerant face of Pakistan, because it was cutting across at least 3 different cultures. The Sikh culture, the Hungarian culture, and obviously the Pakistani culture. And that went down exceptionally well with the globe. I'm very proud to share with you that as a result of that, we have been recognized and been given the highest civil award by the government of Hungary last year in August. And this is my personal belief that, we can talk about finance and banking and economics, but if you try and take this away from the social elements of it, if you try and take this away and out from the cultural aspect of things, trust me, no economic success will have any meaning. It will have short life and it will have very limited impact. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, in my view, the visionary banking is a fully integrated banking related to the entire society, the entire culture, and promoting art and music and painting, as Azara was also talking about this morning. Without that, there is no visionary banking to my mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dada, for sharing such a wonderful presentation. And so let's hear something about the real success story of new microfinance bank from Mr. Kabeer, as how he's transformed.
Mr. Crop Cycle, Mr. Ali Akai, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. In the interest of time, I'm going to do a quick monologue and share my experiences as a banker for the unbanked. So I've got a unique privilege of being part of two startup banks that were primarily formed for financial inclusion purposes. One was Tameer Bank, which is now General Bank. We started off in 2005, took it to scale, it won many awards, and we launched a brand which is very well known in Pakistan by the name Easy Paisa. I moved on from Tameer Bank in 2015 to take over a sick unit, if I may say, of the PTCL group, which was troubled. They were not able to take it to scale. In 2015, similar model, microfinance bank with a branchless banking license for the same mission, with the same mission of banking the unbanked. Now, a bit of storytelling is important here. And I will give some credit to the central bank because their foresight, obviously in hindsight, when we look back, all the steps that have been taken the last 14, 15 years, we had a great story for tele-density. And the banking density gap vis-a-vis the tele-density gap was huge. Back in the day, it was about 100 million cell phone users, time that I'm talking about, versus 12% banking penetration in Pakistan. So the game was in using the digital channels or the mobile phones to providing financial services to the wider population. And a lot has been done over the years. Now, 3 telecoms out of 4 in Pakistan got microfinance bank licenses. They bought out microfinance banks and got a branchless banking license to offer financial inclusion services. Now, the marriage between a telecom and a microfinance bank is not a coincidence. Now, I'll tell you why. The flagship product in Pakistan on the branchless banking platform has been domestic remittances, followed by bill payments. The average size of domestic remittances has been 4,700 rupees, which tells you the kind of client that is using the service. Anybody who is transferring 4,700 rupees average is clearly not a high-end client. And one would even argue is not a bankable client as per traditional norms. So these are the masses in reality. So the hypothesis was tested through this branchless banking service. Now the 3 players, UPaisa, Jazz Cash, Easy Paisa, with UPaisa, it's a joint brand between UBank and Uphone. We're owned by PTCL, which is the national telecom. Now, interestingly, I am happy to share, in fact, we get it like a purple heart, that we have a storeroom full of what not to do. Because we were the first ones who ventured into this space, who dared to venture into this space, because when you work with the vulnerable part of the society, the general impression is that it will not be sustainable and you will not be able to take it to scale. And which is kind of true also. So we had to think out of the box to make these institutions self-sustaining and scalable also. Because if you compare a microfinance bank with a traditional large commercial bank with a huge capital base, one can easily argue if you are to target 5 million to 8 million clients with a small capital base, how would you do it? And technology is the answer. So digital railroads were the way forward. And in the digital railroads, mobile phones, needless to say, smartphones as well as USSD, and I think Salman would love to add more to it, that days of the USSD are not gone in Pakistan at least, because when you leave as I was saying the other day, Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, a lot of people are still using USSD and feature phones. So the client, where I'm trying to draw your attention is, in order to include people who are excluded, the KYC, as Shazad was mentioning as well, knowing your customer is key. And out of experience, you cannot know much about these clients without shaking hands with them, which is the tough part, which is the difficult part. So anybody you would like to include, if you don't know the culture, if you don't know the dynamics of their lives, then they are merely stats on a spreadsheet. But we're talking about real human beings. So when we took off Ubank, the what not to do store, I brought it with me in 2015, and the first idea was to make it very, very sustainable. 7 years down, I'm happy to share with you that we strategize to have multiple revenue engines. And I'm not apologetic. Many people say that a lot of work you do at Ubank is traditional commercial bank work, and you are sort of going towards mission drift. And I disagree. Why? Because you need to have a sustainable banking institution in order to reach your goal. So we bifurcated the entire balance sheet into 6 verticals. And this is totally original, totally homegrown, thought out process. And the 6 verticals are, when we were primarily doing rural-based lending, we were prone to locust attacks, floods, a pandemic. We were a one-trick pony. And if something went wrong, we went into a lockdown, the customer would be in trouble, we will not be able to serve them as well. So we broke it down into 6 categories, and we thought that it is very important, imperative, that we must enter the bank space as well, and have a wider spectrum of clients that we are serving for that build capacity. And we started calling the verticals more like retail rather than only microfinance. Microfinance is, in today's world, is part of the stuff that we do. We are into low-cost housing now, larger ticket size loans now. We are into commercial vehicle financing, tractor financing, and we will be doing other agri-machinery as well very, very soon. And agriculture segment was the prime focus previously. Now it's more like a retail segment, because the needs of the emerging middle class have to be understood. A small farmer also needs a refrigerator, a motorcycle, and they also have other consumption needs that were previously ignored, even when the regulation came into being in 2001. And the regulation has evolved ever since. Now, the 6 verticals are rural retail. The core business that we used to do in microfinance, we're calling it rural retail now. That's our core, that's our mission. We've launched urban setup of branches. We're calling it urban retail. So we will be mobilizing deposits from the banked clients, and we will be working with clients of, say, Zafar's clients or Shahzad's clients as well, and we'll be competing in that space. And we will be deploying those funds where they are needed in the rural part of Pakistan. So urban retail and rural retail. On the other side, the stuff that I was talking about earlier, revenue engines, strong revenue engines other than the microfinance loan engine also. So I'm very happy to report, share with you that Ubank's treasury book, which was criticized also, is much larger than the micro loan book. And when you that book, it's a beautiful bouquet of investments. We work with all large commercial banks. We are into overnight lending, and we have very specialized profit-making treasury function. Just to give you perspective, 40 billion rupees of micro loans and 60 billion rupee treasury. So, and that's the breakdown. And total earning assets of the bank, again to give you perspective as to how lucrative Pakistan is commercially also. When we started Ubank, the balance sheet footing was 2 billion. It is 104 billion today, organically, in 7 years. And in the total asset base, out of the 104 billion, over 90 billion of total assets are earning assets, not fixed assets or other stuff like that. So the spread, it became a self-sustaining model. Urban retail, rural retail, treasury, corporate finance. On the funding side also, traditionally, microfinance banks would just go to large corporates, pick up expensive money, and would be very, very vulnerable in terms of liquidity. So we had to crack that code also. So we went into full retail, did not move away from corporate, we're doing that. But on the same side, at the same time, we have built a beautiful bouquet again on the liability side of a borrowing book. The banking sector, commercial banking sector has an exposure of over 40 billion rupees on Ubank today. We've done TFCs, we're going for a retail TFC, commercial paper, syndication, you name it, we've done that. And nobody's done that in the microfinance space. So when you look at the balance sheet, you see a great effort and a lot of craftsmanship in order to make it sustainable, open up sources of funding, open up revenue engines, and the spreads are beautiful. So treasury corporate finance, rural retail, urban retail, moving on, corporate. You would think, what is a microfinance bank has to do with corporates? I'm talking about MSMEs, micro and small enterprises and small enterprises. They've got cash management needs, they've got transaction banking needs, they need a bit more sophistication as well. And that's the missing middle where the larger banks were not focused previously, and now banks like BOP, I'm very pleased to see, are focusing on the MSMEs, and we are brothers in arms as far as that segment is concerned. So that's the fourth thing that we did. Fifth, in the age of digital banking, so for us, as I said on Monday as well, the objective is to include people, and digitization is a way forward. But it's not the only way forward. And yes, surely the scale is faster, but depends if you're talking about savings and payments or if you're talking about credit, because credit is a different story altogether. And when you talk about impact, when you talk about increasing income levels or productivity, credit comes. Because opening an account and putting deposit is one thing, and getting financing from a financial institution, that too in an undocumented economy, undocumented part of the economy, is different. So we are working towards that. It's going to take some time, but we have made an entire digital banking vertical in the bank. We are getting state-of-the-art technology. We were talking about Temenos. We are also following Zafar's route. We are buying the core banking as well as infinity of Temenos. We will be the first bank, microfinance bank, to do the full suite for that. And we will be into open banking, banking as a service, and all of those things. That's the fifth word. Sixth is very interesting. It's Islamic banking. So when we traveled the length and breadth of Pakistan, we saw that we were excluding a lot of clients who were more towards Sharia-based financing and savings products. So I'm happy to share with you that we are, after NRSP, one of the other microfinance players in Pakistan, they did a pilot on Islamic. We are just about to end our pilot, and we are putting up 30 branches, especially dedicated Islamic branches, and we are offering Islamic microfinance services in Pakistan throughout the nation. So this is like, these are the 6 engines, and we're getting beautiful response. So internally, we use the analogy of an Antonov, sadly it's destroyed now, a plane with 6 engines. You know, even if 2 or 3 engines fail, it is self-sustaining and it's growing. So that's been our story, and I think sustainability is at the core of it. And I would second what Shazad mentioned earlier today, that in coming times, the definition of who is big and who is small is going to change. Because in the digital age, you know, in the age of the mobile wallets, where you will be working, all of us are at the beginning of the whole thing. So it doesn't matter how many brick and mortar branches I have, it doesn't matter what is the legacy deposit I have. Way forward is using digital railroads and specialized products using AI. A lot many great things have been said today and have been done by UBL and BOP. That's the way forward. So I think a mindset change was required, and I'm very happy to share with you that I would honestly say that mindset change has been embraced at UBank at least. That we are a bank that takes public money, we are regulated, but with a specialized mission to bank the unbanked. So with that, I'm going to go towards closure of my talk today. And last message that I would want to share with all of you, that in times of crisis, because you know, when you're part of 2 startup banks, there are days, and Ikram Saab, you would know it, there are days when you question the entire thing. You know, whether it's going to work out or it's not going to work out. So it's been kind of an entrepreneurial journey for us. You know, inheriting a stable institution is a different thing. Creating something, building something ground up is a very, very different experience. And that too, I'm proud to share with you, UBank is one of the only stories of building something in a highly regulated space and then taking it to scale. And we are pushing the envelope in terms of regulatory evolution. We are partners with the central bank, and partnerships are the way forward. We've got relationships with UBL as well as BOP and many other commercial banks, where they are providing us the muscle, actually the financing muscle to go out there and serve the smaller client. So with that, I think this is time for Pakistan. 80% people are excluded. You know, when you peel the onion, you talk about the 20% included, you talk about bank accounts. I said it the other day as well. Having a bank account is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. So we need to talk about sustainability, productivity, improvement in income levels, and obviously in the end, including people socially. And I think I would echo what Zafar said, financial inclusion cannot happen without social inclusion. Thank you very much.
So, Shazad, I personally feel that the overall role of, by designing an overall business banking strategy, what do you think there is a role of product design and implementation? Because considering the fact that if the product is not being designed, although you have a very good strategy going on, very good strategy drafted by a very good strategy, or maybe then you can see anything. But what happens is if the product design and especially linked to the customer experience is not there. So how do you think that this product design can be? What's the role of product design and how is it going to implement it?
The role of design, Salman, a very pertinent question. I want to respond it in two parts. First part is by expanding the thought of the visionary banking in slightly different and in a simplistic way. So basically, visionary banking is drafting and crafting a strategy based on the visionary principles, methodologies, and opportunities which are so far invisible to others, path less traveled. So when I say others, I mean to say your customers, your partners, your stakeholders, and even representing a public sector bank, your government institutions as government-led institutions as well. So to achieve this, you need to have a general strategy, you need to understand your peer banks, your product should be one notch above them so that they bank with you on top of the competitor. So it is purely a commercially driven strategy. It's somewhat easier to offer something to the already banked customers. Then comes the middle and the base of the pyramid. To me, the real revolution lies at designing a visionary strategy that actually encompasses this unbanked and underbanked segment to uplift them into the financial fold and thereby actually creating an impact. Everybody, Zafar, Shahzad, Kabeer, all of them talked about it. So that is where the actual revolution lies. So, because here your strategy for this segment of society, your strategy actually go through the entire product development life cycle. You start designing and conceptualizing from from designing up to the level of adoption. You need to conceptualize the product literacy, and you need to reach the ultimate stage of the product development life cycle up to the adoption to ensure your commercial goals and ambitions are achieved. So considering the aptitude in Pakistan, I believe, and the customer behavior in Pakistan, I believe that Pakistan still needs a fully grown assisted model to serve new customers. Only self-service won't work in Pakistan probably in the next 5-10 years. So on top of self-service, there has to be a parallel assisted model to actually create awareness and bring bank into the fold. So in Pakistan, we are actually now seeing, I think somebody said it earlier as well, we are actually now seeing that there's no more only a better branch outlook and services which matter and drive customers' interest. It is quite common that people are saying that I'm banking with my bank because they are offering great and easy to use digital banking service. So at Bank of Punjab, Zafar has already articulated and shared our 2-3 years vision on how to take the DigiPop strategy, which we call, to the next level. So I won't touch upon that, but I think so much so, this is my view on the product development life cycle. Thank you.
So I would like to hear your comments on that, how this personalized customer experience can be achieved by leveraging the services and the technology, that how the product will be designed, then how we can get the real personalized customer experience out of it. I would like to hear your point.
Okay, so thank you, Salman. I mean, this is this is a very good question, in fact. It is definitely the key. Customer experience is the key, and without technology, I think organizations cannot do much without technology. But I would like to share that first, to have a dedicated customer experience team. So who can basically continuously iterate and optimize the entire end-to-end financial services customer experience landscape. And once you have such kind of a team in place who continuously iterates all this, then it would be possible to enhance the products and the services that any organization has to offer. And using the data that is generated by the customers, which is available on all the digital channels such as internet banking, mobile, ATM. So once you consolidate all that data of every customer, then only it will be practically possible to come up with a personalized experience for every individual. So it's like a multiple step approach. So once you have the team, once you have the data in place, and then you basically use that data to identify the customer's trends and all, then you will be able to come up with an individual request. Otherwise, it would be just like offering experience to someone who's of a different age and someone who's a younger generation and providing the same experience across the board. So I think it's a long step-by-step approach to get to that level where you can provide a customer experience which can create a difference. Thank you.
Very well said. Because we're giving all these discussions on the technology and initiatives and data and the approach of designing, and then leads to a complete strategy. But still, I still remember being in schools. People need packaging, but they don't necessarily need packaging. Right? So, how this can be achieved? How this can be achieved? So, this is something which I would like to work with the technology architect, Shah, how this can be achieved.
Thank you so much. So, I'd like to start from the point that when I joined this industry a couple of, nearly a decade ago, the notion was that banks are time source. And in the future, there's going to be a lot of banking, but there may not be any more banks. So the future of banking is not for banks. And what we were seeing at that time was basically the Polaroid example. And this was something which also went on in Europe as well. The European markets, 8 out of 10 banks basically reported that they knew that the only place a customer can actually make a deposit is the bank. So the banks weren't, very comfortable or enticed to actually innovate. Hence, what happened? The regulators stepped in there, announced the open banking initiatives. So similarly, when we look at Polaroid, when you fail to innovate, and those who fail to innovate, those who fail to take the risk are the first ones to perish. This is a very different banking industry that we're looking at today. We're looking at an industry in terms of fintech, where in the 2010s, the idea was that if the banks don't innovate, the fintechs are going to come, they will disrupt the entire space, and then the banks are going to either go out of business or close down. But what we're seeing actually is a big paradigm shift in the mentality and the mindset of the banks. Banks are now actually opening up. So the banks are opening up to partnerships, they're opening up to collaboration, and rather than focusing on product-based banking, banks are actually moved towards service-oriented banking. So every bank is going to take deposits, every bank is going to give you 2 payment instruments, a checkbook and a card. But the bank which gives you the best customer experience is the one that you will opt for. So apparently what happened? To give you an example, one bank started WhatsApp banking. Everyone joined the bandwagon. So there are always challengers, leaders, and innovators. Especially in Pakistan, we do tend to stay on the bottom side of the hype cycle just to make sure that we see everyone internationally completing their experiments, and then actually we go into our technology adaptation. So we always wait for the plateau of productivity of any technology to adopt it. But what we're seeing right now is that a lot of these banks are basically offering customized solutions. They're adapting technology, open banking, API banking. We're seeing products where we're seeing banks are providing, since you have data, you can do so many things with it, and that was basically the idea of banking 4.0. So when you say, and I'm not only just getting my bank statement, but my bank is telling me, okay, maybe you're spending a little bit more over there. So if you have this goal, and if you want to save up in the next 6 months, maybe you need to cut down on your shopping or hanging out along your luxurious nights and go somewhere else. So rather than and previously this was something which was prestigious and premium to high deposit customers. But because AI and machine learning and data is available and so abundant, you can just run an algorithm in your data lake and you can get this information and provide it to the customer. So therefore, the first to innovate will definitely be the ones moving forward. The other thing is basically opening up to collaboration and partnerships. If you look at buy now, BNPL, fintechs, what are they looking for? They're looking for information. So in Pakistan, we basically have this initiative of open banking aggregators are showing up. We, iPath, are also getting into open banking. And think of it like, traditionally, if you were to take a loan for anything, you would have to actually go to a bank, fill out a couple of forms, and then the loan sanctioning officer would actually take a few days. So there basically was a turnaround time till you will actually get your loan. But think of it right now, a banking ecosystem where the bank is directly connected with the fintech. You have your money deposited in the bank, you basically give your consent. The aggregator, the BNPL fetches all of your information, turns it into their credit score machine learning algorithm and offers you instant credit. So this is basically a few things that I actually wanted to touch on in my talk.
Thank you. So, Shahzad, by listening all these things, like we are having a social impact, we have a social banking, we have an impact on transformation, product design, we have the technology implementation, because we are moving towards networks, we are moving to so. But still, one answer is still, one question is still unanswered, that is, how do you foresee the relationship between fintechs and the banking customer experience? Until now, we are just talking about banking, bank and fintech. Now, we just want to know that how you foresee what would be the relationship between the fintech and the banking customer experience, and how we can utilize this, and how this thing will actually facilitate fintech to grow more products and make more products more viable.
Thanks, Salman. I'll keep it short because I know people have questions. But honestly, it's like any other partnership. It has to be a win-win partnership. It cannot be one where one is playing a dominating role and the other one playing the subservient role. I think if we really want to make it work, I think we need to understand. We need to really understand. First of all, it has to be a win-win relationship. Secondly, it has to be purpose-driven, right? We need to share the same purposes. And not one partnership will work for all. Maybe for certain things, there will be one fintech partner. Like I said, it's an open platform. Through APIs, we will integrate. So there's no one partner that we choose. I think the days of exclusive arrangements are also done. Depending on the relationship of the partnership, depending on the depth of it, the breadth of it, it will also depend if you really want to become true partners in the spirit of co-investing in each other. I've seen those models in the West. Some of those have worked brilliantly, some of those you don't need to. The most important thing is that the survivability of both these partners have to realize that they both need each other. There's a need-based relationship, and it has to be on a collaborative, cooperative model. If you don't do that, I think both parties will be making losers. They have to work in a manner which is fair, transparent, and again allows you to take leapfrog forward rather than trying to do it yourself. I mean, I told in my presentation, I don't think we can all, any of these things we're trying to do. If we try to do it, perhaps we'll get there. We'll get there a lot. Will take a lot longer, and it won't be the best in class. Whereas if we partner with somebody like a VRG or any of the Pathfinder companies or any other fintech player, I think we will be better served.
Thank you, sir.
मेरा सवाल कबीर साहब से मैं जानबूझ के अपनी ज़ुबान में बात करना चाह रहा हूँ, जो मैं नहीं चाहता पाकिस्तान की बातें बाहर जाएं। I'm thankful to microfinance banking कि इन्होंने ऐसे लोगों के लिए बैंकिंग की जिनको बैंक भी नहीं आने देता था, लोन दिए, सारा कुछ दिया। लेकिन सोचने वाली बात ये है कि माइक्रो फाइनेंस में आपकी बात नहीं कर रहा, सबकी बात कर रहा हूँ, इनको फ्रीज कर दें। कितने चार्जेस हैं आपको इस्तेमाल करता है तो 15,000 रुपया भेजने के लिए आप उसे 150-200 रुपये ले लेते हैं। वो सारे आपको इस्तेमाल करने वाले लो पेड एम्प्लॉइज हैं और वो गरीब लोग हैं और आप उनको लूटने पे तुले हैं।
ये वो लोग हैं जिनके साथ काम करने से लोग डरते हैं, क्योंकि मैं तो आपके सवाल पे आता हूँ। जो छोटा फार्मर है उसका जो मार्जिन है, और वे कहते हैं ना 100% ऑफ जीरो स्टेट जीरो, उसका अगर छोटा सा 20,000 30,000 रुपये उसको मिल रहा है, आप कहते हैं उसका जो मार्जिन है वो 170% है, कभी आदमी उससे 100% लेता है और फिर भी वो चल रहा है। अच्छा, मगर 170% 20,000 का कैरी होगा, हम उसको अगर 30% पे देते हैं जहाँ पे वो 100% ले रहा है, वो IRR की आप बात करें, कुछ इंस्टीट्यूशंस थे ऐसे, स्टेट बैंक उसको नीचे ले गया। एक चीज जो मॉडल समझने की जरूरत है साहब, वो ये है कि आपकी जो कॉस्ट ऑफ फंडिंग है माइक्रो फाइनेंस बैंक की, वो डबल डिजिट से लगी ट्रेडिशनली, बिकॉज ये डिपॉजिट मोबिलाइज नहीं करते। मेरी बात
सॉरी सर, इसकी वो जिम्मेदारी वो तो नहीं है।
नहीं, वो नहीं, मैं आपको सिर्फ मॉडल बता रहा हूँ। फिर साथ में ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट है, जब आप छोटे इलाके में इलाके में जाके ब्रांच खोलते हैं, इंटरनेट देते हैं, 20-25 बंदा वहाँ पे लगाते हैं, उसको कहीं से ट्रांसफर करते हैं, तो आपकी ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट रिलेटिव टर्म्स में भी 13-14% आ जाती है। तो अगर आप समझे 12% कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड होगी, आजकल तो काइबोनी की पहुंच गई और ऊपर चली जाएगी, 13-14% आपकी होगी ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट। फिर आप थोड़ी डिलीवरेंसी लगा लें, सारे लोन तो वापस नहीं आते, 3-4-5% लोन वापस आते हैं नहीं ज्यादा। तो अगर 3-4% अभी इंडस्ट्री की जो एवरेज है, जो स्टेट बैंक रेगुलेटेड 3%,
थोड़ा सा पता है, आप उसको कैरी ऑन कर देते हैं।
आई एम कमिंग टू दैट। तो आपकी टोटल 30% के ऊपर की यील्ड है, तो 14 + 12 + चले 3 लगाएं, मार्जिन आपका बनता है 3%। हम मार्जिन की बात नहीं करते, हम सिर्फ टॉप लाइन यील्ड की बात करते हैं। तो मैं लोगों को कहता हूं कि एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स के नॉर्म्स क्वांटम फिजिक्स पे ना लगाएं। आप जब नैनो क्रेडिट पे जाते हैं, किसी को 1,000 रुपए का क्रेडिट देते हैं, आप परसेंटेज का रिटर्न निकालें, 90% चार्ज हो रहा है, 120% चार्ज हो रहा है, क्योंकि उसको 4 दिन के लिए ब्रिज फाइनेंस कर रहे हैं। जिस तरह लोन छोटा होता जाता है, तो परसेंटेजेस जो है उनकी एडवाइस कम होती जाती है, मनी टर्म्स की ज्यादा। तो एक लंबी बहस है, हम बात कर सकते हैं इसको, मगर हमें
इसका जवाब दे दें कि लोन तक तो ठीक है सर, ये आप ट्रांसफर करने में इतने पैसे।
हाँ जी, जो मनी ट्रांसफर है वो भी बता दें, बड़ा जरूरी सवाल है, इसका जवाब दें। उसमें 1,000 रुपए में 60 रुपए इंडस्ट्री लेती है, 1,000 रुपए में 60 रुपए शुरू से। और ये टेलीकॉम एजेंट जो है, जिसकी मैं उस दिन भी बात कर रहा था, जो कि करियाने वाला है, जिसकी रोटी अंडे बेचने की दुकान है, उसमें 4 मशीनें पड़ी हैं, और आपको मजेदार बात बता रहा हूँ कि 60 रुपए में से 90% करियाने वाला रखता है। हाँ हो यार, बिल्कुल। उसके बाद तभी तो ये सारे जो ब्रांचेस बैंकिंग मॉडल की सस्टेनेबिलिटी का क्वेश्चन आया हुआ है, क्योंकि पैसे ही नहीं बन रहा, थ्रूपुट तो आ रहा है मगर पैसा नहीं बन रहा, क्योंकि फी बेस्ड पैसा नहीं बन रहा। जब ये डिपॉजिट मोबिलाइज करेंगे और सही एसेट में लगाएंगे तो पैसा बनेगा, लेकिन बैंक की तरह से। And later on we can sit in the evening. Thank you.
Sorry about you. How do you foresee cryptocurrencies and adaptability or its future in Pakistan? And second, I was talking to Kabeer yesterday. Why is Amazon still not in Pakistan? What are the hindrances? Tanya, for the Science and Technology Minister, was here 2020, and she mentioned that she's working very hard on it. But it's still not there. So I just wanted to hear.
So the easier one is that Amazon is now in Pakistan, so that's good news. We can all celebrate that.
Yes.
And the difficult one is you talk about international trade in cryptocurrency and
Can they sell and buy? So
they can. Now, on the difficult part, I'll let Shazad take the because there's still a lot of learning to be done on that, and how to regulate it, because otherwise you're going to run into a massive colossal AML issues and many others. And plus you also want to make sure that you won't see, Black Monday or Black Friday or whatever. So I think it's not the extent there. It's being discussed, debated, deliberated in Pakistan by state bank and the stakeholders in the meetings. And it's also being discussed at the college level between central banks on what's the best way to deregulate or regulate it, allow it to be certain regulations. So stay tuned, it's coming. And it's not like we're not aware of it, we're not thinking about it. It's just that we want to make sure that we do it the right way, and it does not get exploited. Plus, it also has an impact on a fragile CAT position, foreign reserve position, because otherwise you will have a bunch of funders taking parts of things that are non-productive assets.
Interestingly, we are the two banks right now that I am aware of, would actually seriously exploring the possibility of bringing it together. And obviously that's where the cryptocurrency and Web 3.0 regulatory piece handling. We'll work with Shazad on this one. The RTE will work with the central bank to find a suitable regulatory environment to make sure that we are not losing out. That's what the global trend is. But to be very honest with you, it's not just Pakistan alone. If you look at the global banking industry, the large banks like JP Morgan and Chartered is far behind, but there are a couple of other banks who are slightly ahead of me. HSBC is slightly ahead of the game, but they're still not there. They're still grappling with how to tackle the situation. And I think we are not doing that bad. At least there is realization, there is an acceptance. And as I said, interestingly enough, the two banks that Syed was invited to Orient Economic Forum this year. These are the two banks who are seriously exploring this possibility. Okay, so I have spent some money on my own money, on Oculus. They made me spend that money so that I get myself attuned to the whole idea of metaverse and virtual reality. So I'm personally hurt by that, so I make sure that I recover the money and there's good return on investment on that one.
The question is that the economic meltdown that Pakistan is facing right now, and I, because of the nature of my profession, speak to a couple of people, and some of them said that they are actually in negative because of food inflation and high commodity prices. In that situation, are you really looking at expanding the banking sector? One. Two, you keep talking about networking, digitalization. Do you factor in the fact that the access for women to digitalization is minimal? In Pakistan, it's one of the worst. So when you talk about women and factoring them in, are you also talking about digital awareness for the women? Thank you so much.
And I'll talk from a microfinance perspective. When things go bad and there are times of crisis, like in COVID, I didn't get with the answer right now. The country is going through a lockdown. And we were in a dilemma. All the banks were part of the essential services, but the threat was very real for our staff. And whether to keep the lights on or shut down our hawker, a daily wager, in the kinds that we serve, it would have had devastating impact. So I'm happy to share that we did not shut down head office as well as the field, so we were there. Similarly, where food inflation is high, the affected part, I don't need to tell you who's most affected by all of this. So if in this time we lower the criteria of lending to someone, get some collateral, if not, income proxies that make it more relaxed and extend them the loans, they will sail through. That's the philosophy that we are following, particularly the segment that I'm talking about, and then I think they'll share with their segment. So we are expanding even more. In times like these, I can tell you, we are putting up 80 to 100 full menu branches this year, and we've already started, and in the remotest parts of Pakistan. So I think, from my perspective, as a practitioner with the unbanked, this is the time where we need to roll up our sleeves and serve them rather than being conservative. That's the answer to your first question.
There is a situation, tough environment, tough situation. We are part and parcel of a larger integrated global community. If there is a meltdown in Pakistan, there is a meltdown globally as well, of different nature perhaps. So therefore, the situation is not the most comforting, but nevertheless, I think this is a cycle. We will get over that cycle one way or the other. To answer your question directly, yes, banks will slow down. There will be so every tough environment gives an opportunity for certain improvements that we can do in our systems and processes. And we first had witnessed that in the case of Kabeer. The digitization that we are talking about, there would have been at least, there would have been we've covered at least 10 years, I would say, in terms of achieving where we are today because of our situation. So while there were side effects of it, negative effects of that, there were positives as well. And I think this is about time for us all to also make sure that our costs remain under control and we continue to service our customers. So that's about the first. The second one, by the way, I'm actually, you are one of the thought leaders in Pakistan. You know things firsthand. I know you research a lot as well. But I said, women, to be honest with you, are very savvy when it comes to using technology. This is what I experienced. And I'm coming from my experience, particularly when we talk about these social transfers that we talk about in the SAS program. You know, the entire SAS program is confined to women only. There are no men beneficiaries there. The entire SAS program is women-centric. What's the main program? The main SAS program is women-centric. And that main program, women-centric होने की वजह से they are by basic technology requirements, they're very well aware of. And I've seen that myself, that they've done a good job of that. And our social security programs as well, we've seen women, doing pretty well as far as the technology is concerned. So in many ways than one, these excluded segments, when you give them the opportunity, we've seen particularly women responding them very positively and in a manner that, perhaps in our minds, we thought that they will not be able to handle. They've really handled it well, and it's a use case that I just shared with you.
The statistics say, and I don't want to get into an argument here, I'm sure you know more than I do. The statistics say that Pakistan technology savvy and mobile accessibility is one of the lowest for women. So I may be wrong, but that was what I was thinking.
You're absolutely right. But then the fact of the matter is that women inclusion in the banking system is also the lowest. So when you talk about that inclusion piece within that, when you look at the women responding to that, there's a larger problem that we're talking about the inclusion for the last 3 days. But when you talk about within that inclusion piece, you see women responding very well whenever you try and include them in the system.
You're right. The last 5 years, men digital adoption went from 20 to 36%. Women remain stagnant at 7%. But that's partly our fault because we have not done the right design thinking, understanding how to sell digital to a woman. That's why I was talking about design thinking. We recently launched a product called Gouge. It's been a resounding success. It's only been 3 months the way we launched it. उसको भी हमने launch किया because we talked about do a UPI plan. Open a UPI Gouge and I would love for you to become my brand ambassador.
जिस तरह कोविड में गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान ने रिएक्ट किया किसी और ने नहीं किया फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ द पाकिस्तान हमने 2% पे लोन लिए हैं 1.5 ट्रिलियन बैंकों से अपनी चीजें खरीदने के लिए उसका फायदा हुआ लोगों को 3 महीने की तनख्वाह के पैसे दे दिए गए बैंकों ने नॉमिनल उसके ऊपर उसका बड़ा फायदा हुआ गवर्नमेंट ने एहसास के तहत 12-14 हज़ार रुपया लोगों ने बांटा उसका बड़ा फायदा हुआ ये इंशाल्लाह रेड डाउन हो तो लेकिन गवर्नमेंट अगर ठीक हो तो सब ठीक कर लेती है
We would like to close this event. Visual Center in Pakistan. We have a insight from there. Thank you.
Thank you for all here. Of course, only part of who all attended our events yesterday, and today are here. But I want to thank all of you for participating. And I really do have been very successful in one respect in getting visionary bankers here in Davos. And for them to see and convey their thoughts to exactly their Pakistan's interest is not being served by Pakistan not having better presence in Davos. Right? It is not Pathfinder Group or Martin Dow alone. It is, I think, the duty of each and every Pakistani, particularly big houses, to please participate in building up Pakistan's image here. And I must tell you that it has been a very good experience, particularly this particular event in Davos event in summer. First of all, we used to see white around, now we can see trees actually. Now, the good experience has been inviting the right people to come and speak. It's been a revelation to me. I learned a lot in the last few days. I learned a lot and to see. And Al-Sal is right about one thing. In the pandemic, we would have had to, a lot of people would have gone home if the salary finance would not have come down to 2%. A lot of things would have come down. I think somebody not here, we must refer to him as a Bakr, not the governor of the state. And I think, we must acknowledge people who are not many. I think I don't need to advertise that anymore. I think the people here seem to carry this word as far as Pakistan is concerned. How much networking can take place that is very much required to build a Pakistan image. So of course, this has to be the right time. But the major things that actually is required is, you cannot really expect the government to participate. The governments have their own thing. If you have something, then you have 100 questions. I mean, we had this investment thing. It went very well. Actually, I was very surprised by the type of this investment. It was very good. But then they were better than the bureaucracies of this thing. I must tell you that Punjab was practically refused. Gilgit Baltistan made some noises. KPK kept on saying, please ring up next week. Right? So, and that was, even though the Prime Minister was trying to tell them it was interesting. So, it does require the private sector to stand forth, and I think that is what we require. This is a momentous Davos for me. For the first time I've been on the stage, I passed the mantle to my son, Zafar. I must tell you that I'm very proud of him for many reasons. But the fact is that, when I asked him, and he's my only son, I have 2 daughters, very talented, very perfect. At the end of the day, my other son to come back and run these group of companies. He said, no, I want to make a mark on my own. And what a mark he's made. A lot of people do not know that for 6 years running, he was the legal 500 of United States and the Chambers and Law Directory. They named him as number 1. And in different towns, people don't know he's head of finance, logistics, and I don't know all about. But the fact is that he also controls the banking practices of the Americas, the different towns, like North and South America. So I was a little surprised, and I must tell you the story, because I haven't told him as yet, that the last time we went to, refinance our loans, and we had plenty of collateral. Our books are very good, our cash flow was fantastic. But the reluctance, said, Mr. Krabsacker is 76 years old. Is his son capable to this thing? Does he have a succession plan? They didn't know that many years ago when he started dealing directly with the CEO of the company. They talk to each other more than I know. And sometimes they can tell me that he's started this and he's done that. But the other thing that happens is that what really sort of mystified me is anybody could have Googled it and found out what he is. And anyway, I'm not sure that the senior bankers here will convey to the State Bank of Pakistan that the Pathfinder Group is in good hands.
I was just hoping it wasn't the UBL. Thank God. Not the UBL. We need to apply to the Bank of Punjab. And I actually requested 3 bankers that we not wanted to apply to, so it not seem that we have gone that thing.
But anyway, the bank, the Indian board came through very fast by themselves. When the president of the bank came through about it, he was pretty annoyed at the questions that were being asked. But anyway, I just want to say that I'm very proud of my son Zara, very proud of my daughter Haya, who is not here, and my daughter Rajana. And of course, I must give credit to my wife Shanaz, who keeps mixing everything. Every time this won't work. And that was actually giving me an acid test. She says it won't work, maybe it will. So, anyway, thank you all for being here, and I must say thank you to everybody. The senior bankers were, and of course the supporting teams that came with me. And people who really, like Racha who came through and all. I'd just like to mention here something, and then you can actually give an instant credit to anybody who asks in about account without collateral. Why? Because if he defaults, there are two reasons why he's going to have a problem. The first problem is that his SIM card will be blocked out. His ID card will be blocked. And number three, you never get a telephone again. Yes. Because there's a thing in the telephone system, it will always blacklist him. I think the person who defaults will have a big problem. Thank you. Thank you very much.